Welcome to the Inherited Abode. I'm your host, Summer, and we're picking up from the fact that I just found out that my dad was diagnosed with dementia. We needed to get a whole plan together to have care for him at home while my mother went back to work, to set my mother up for success, to make sure that she could now take over and be the head of the household, to pay the bills, to pay the insurance, to pay the property taxes, to pay the help. She went from being a almost retired wife to fully being in charge of herself and my father. So now we are down to, it is May, and I've just informed my parents that I am pregnant. I have their first grandchild on the way in the midst of this very disheartening diagnosis. So one of the first things we needed to do was to officially retire my father. So that meant we needed to tell the people at his job, and he had been there almost like 10 years. So we had like a little retirement party, right? So we kind of really quickly put together a retirement party. Everybody in the office, it was a small office. They came, we met everybody. They were very, very lovely people. They were very supportive. My dad had no intentions of retiring at the time. He said he was going to work another 2 years. So we did that. We officially retired him. My dad also had a business doing taxes. So if your parents have a side hustle or a legitimate business, what is the plan if you have to come in and shut it down? What is the plan if they can no longer do it? Do you have any information on that? No, we did not. The bank account. Who are your clients? How do I get in contact with them? What's the password to your business that's not your job and not at home, your business, your work stuff? So my dad had a small building that I don't know if he rented it or he owned it, but I had to go there, and his best friend had tried and could not get into the computer. So I'd gone there, played around with it, was able to get into it, did a search. Lo and behold, thank God my dad had, it was older, but he had a spreadsheet of passwords. That was jackpot. So I was able to log into a lot of things, get into a lot of things, even know what I should be looking for, because I didn't even know what should I be looking for. So he had enough passwords and logins for me to be like, oh, I need to look into that. Oh, I didn't even know. I didn't even think about that. So that was a cheat code. There were a lot of voicemails on his work phone. So I needed to call each client and let them know they needed to come get their taxes, because he will not be doing them. I had to see whose taxes that was on the table, call them, tell them to come get their taxes. I now had to figure out how to legally dispose of years of old clients' personal identification information. I had to shut my dad's business down with the state. Because again, he's paying taxes. He had a secretary, so he had one employee. I needed to Google again and figure all this out and be like, okay, I need to officially shut it down. I don't want it to us to just like leave it out there. I need to make sure it's closed so that there's like no tax implications or no, anything like that. So figure that out through Google and calling. He was on a board for organization for the type of work that he did. So let's say if you're an auditor or you're a CPA or you're a lawyer and maybe you're on a board somewhere, I needed to call the board and inform them that he could no longer serve as a board member. So I literally was going down this list. So from May to June, I am just going down this list of things. Like every day, it was like something new that I needed to track down. I needed to look for. I needed to inform someone. So I'm legitimately sitting there, and it's like he had to pay, I don't know what it was, payroll tax, property, some sort of taxes to the state, workman's comp, something. And I would need to go in there and make the payments, and it would calculate itself. And so I would do that. And so I needed to call whoever was over that department to say, hey, I need to close this business. Can you tell me how I close businesses? Because we can't keep doing this as businesses going out of, and I'm like, it's dementia. So I'm telling this story over and over and over again. People are being very helpful. The people at the board where I had to, tell them you can no longer serve they were very helpful. So we got all these things done. So the business is now officially shut down. We've informed all the clients that we could find, anybody that would call. I had a cell phone so we could, let them know. So that part done. We have passwords. So now we can get into more things. We can make sure that my mom has access to things. Good. We were in the process of finding out about the life insurance policy. So we'll start there. So we finally find a policy number. We call the guy. He's like, oh, yeah. I'm pulling it up now. I remember. He has to get the power of attorney to talk to us. My mom gets the power of attorney. We now talk to him. He walks us through what my dad had. Okay. If this is not a PSA for getting life insurance, I don't know what is. My dad got this life insurance in 1985. I was 6 years old, so you do the math. And it is now 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19. Policies usually run about 25 to 30 years. He had about 4 or 5 years left on this policy and it was going to run out. It was for $25,000. They never increased it. They never got another one. And it was set up where it covered him and my mom. But if he died first, the policy would cease to exist. So she had none. I informed her of that. In the process, she randomly went and got insurance, got a life insurance policy. I didn't know what it was for. She didn't tell me anything. It was for $10,000. And I was like, Mom, that's not enough. But good start. Good start. So I ended up taking out a policy on her, I think for an additional 10 or 15. The older a person is, the harder it is to get insurance on someone. And they typically don't insure people over 65. And at the time, my mom was like 62. So they waited the full 30 days because they have to give you an answer within 30 days before they gave my mom that coverage. But I did get it. So now we have these two policies. Great. She's covered. My dad's policy, we have it. Great. And after I talked to the guy tries to get me to work for him because he's like, oh my God, you understand all of this. You know all of this cheat code. I had a friend who sold insurance. So you need someone who does insurance. You need someone that's a healthcare worker. You picking up what I'm putting down? And so my friend was able to run it all down to me, tell me what I need, tell me why I needed it with, all the different scenarios. And so when I'm able to talk to the insurance guy, I'm able to have an intelligent and informed conversation. And he can't run any games on me. That part. So now we have insurance. She's covered. Hey, Mom, now that we got a system going, where's your will? Sis didn't have a will, y'all. We done did all this work. We have done all this work. We have my dad's will. We have gotten this paperwork together. We got the power of attorney. We've done all this heavy lifting. And it's like, it was a little calm, right? Okay, we have the lady coming in. We have a system routine. All right. My mom was still at home. She took FMLA. So she was home for a while before she went back to work. But we were getting the system going. The lady was coming. And so I'm trying to think ahead. Okay, we got the files. We know every time the bills come in, what goes where. Anything we found, we could put in there. Okay. And again, I'm getting bigger and bigger because I'm pregnant. And I'm like, hey, where's your will? My mom was like, I don't have a will. What are y'all doing? How did he get a will, but you didn't get a will? Why weren't y'all getting a will together at the same? You got insurance? What? Mom, can we get a will? No. What? This had spooked my mom so much. She seemed normal on the surface, but this had spooked her so much. She did not want to talk about it. She did not want to broach this conversation. So me thinking logically, like, now that we know what we have to do, we need to get ahead of this with you. Let's go get your will. Let's go get your power of attorney. Let's go get all these things. This lady looked me in my face and told me no. She wasn't about to do any of that. Okay. So I I did do this, but I didn't do the other thing. I go to the place where my father's got his will done. And the guy who did the will was now like a 97, 95-year-old man on a walker. He had given his business over to his sons. So I was meeting with the son. So the son did not have a personal relationship with my parents. He just had the files. So I sit him down and I tell him the scenario, and I tell him, hey, your dad did, he drafted my dad's will. My mom doesn't have a will. She right now doesn't want to come in and get one. And he goes, oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, she did come in here because she came in here to get a copy of your dad's will. And I talked to her, and he said, I asked her for all three. We usually, if we're going to ask a client, we say, hey, you want to get your will, your power of attorney, and your advance directives. And your mom said no. I said, yeah, that's why I'm here. So if we end up in a situation and she ends up passing away and she does not have a will, what does that look like? So I was smart enough to go there, and he was willing to do it like consultation, 30-minute call, 30-minute visit for free. And he told me, you're going to probably have to go before the court. It's probably going to be like $2,000, maybe $3,000. He kind of runs it down to me, and I'm like, okay, note to self, I need to have $3,000 set aside because this lady don't want to do a will in the midst of all this. She is crazy. I wasn't able to put myself in her situation. I was just trying to execute. And it was overwhelming. It made her think of her own mortality. It made her feel like I'm planning her death already. So she was not for it. She was not for it. I was like, okay. So maybe a year into this, at the beginning, my father had PT, physical therapy, OT, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And so they're helping because he did a swallow study, and we could see that everything wasn't going where it was supposed to go. So the speech therapist was really helping with his swallowing and him, using his mouth the way he's supposed to. The occupational therapy was buttons and, daily living, like activities of daily living, things that he does every day to still take care of himself and to keep his brain active and try to retain what we could. We also had the doctor put him on an experimental drug that worked for a while. It did not work a long term, but kind of could help combat some of the dementia symptoms. He was definitely sundowning though. About 2 or 3 o'clock, it was a loss. But we would get up, physical and occupational would have him like sweep the carport, sweep under the garage, take things in and out the cabinets, just things to kind of keep him active and try to keep his brain and his physical activity connected as much as we could. But within about a year or so, all of these things started to decline very rapidly, and we had to eventually discontinue all therapies. At this point, even within that first year, my dad was now incontinent. So this lady that we were paying was actually helping him to toilet. She was helping him to bathe. This can be very taxing and tiring on a loved one, on a spouse. On me, I was helping him to do these things, but I'm also pregnant. So having the caregiver there also was very, very helpful. And so we are seeing the decline. The doctor now decides to put my dad on hospice. So when you hear hospice, that means that a person has a year or less to live. They make an exception for Alzheimer's and dementia patients. There is no cure, and there is nothing that you can really do. And so they basically discharge you to hospice, even though you're not in danger of passing away in the next year. My dad ended up being on hospice for 4 years. So every year, his primary care would recertify him for hospice. Hospice means that we are not going to rush you to the ER. We are not going to perform life-saving measures on you to some degree. We're just trying to maintain your comfort. That was also a hard pill for my mom to swallow. And I had explained to her, they just don't want to deal with it anymore. That doesn't mean it's going to pass away. Clearly, because he was on it for 4 years. So now we're at this place where this is life. We've gotten our legal documents on my dad's side together. We do not have the legal documents on my mother's side together at all. My mom has been on FMLA for as long as she can. She's about to return to work. I have set them up in the early part of the summer, left to move in with a friend so that I could finish my research and present to my department so that I could actually receive my degree. I walked in the graduation, but I did not have my degree yet. So I needed to finish my research. I did that. I presented virtually, got my degree in August, set for my licensing exams, passed them, and was like, okay, let me get a job. Let me work a few months before I have this baby. That did not happen. That did not happen. I came home. I was pregnant. Nobody's going to hire a visibly pregnant lady to walk around a hospital and save other people's lives. If I had already been there, they would have known me. It would have been different. But to be fresh out of college, they weren't about to do it. And I was home. I was tag teaming with the caregiver. I was doing my best. And I was working on my mom, trying to see if we can get these documents together. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. So first I'm going to stop there. This is the end of 2015. I have my child December 2015. So I'm going to stop there. And we're going to talk about what this looks like now with a baby. Stay tuned. See you next time.